frank and bohemian life as an artist.
Under 17 not admitted without parents or guardian. Under 17 not admitted without parents or guardian. Under 17 not admitted without parents or guardian.
And this is what the devil does. And this is what the devil does.
You liars! Repent!
Hey, welcome everybody to the Drive-In Asylum late movie. And oh yeah, good evening, fans of fantastic films. I always say that. Well, this week I didn't. How are you, Sam?
I'm Sammy Kerr. Welcome to the show. I'm
Did you like
super
that?
excited by the beginning. I'm super excited for this movie, and there's a lot of folks showed up late at night. I just saw the numbers, and I'm like, wow, there's a lot of folks showing up. So welcome, everybody. I have been looking forward to this all week.
Me as well. Because you know, the movie we're doing tonight happens to be one that is near and dear to my heart. It's one of
Yes.
the very first times I can ever remember being completely fascinated by a horror film.
Awesome.
Probably not maybe like the very first, but you know, it was up there. I watched this the night it was on, Halloween night, or like October 30th, I think. It was the same night as the Paul Lynde Halloween special. That came first. Right afterwards was Look What's Happened to Rosemary's Baby. Of course, I
They
was
programmed a whole night of devilish debauchery on regular TV.
right there on ABC. It was
Yeah.
amazing.
The Abaddon Broadcasting Network or channel.
I had no concept what Rosemary's Baby was, or even the devil, or anything. It was all so new to me. And I remember, like, my aunt, I think, was trying to explain. I kept asking questions like, well, who is he? Like, why is he so weird? And they tried to explain to me that he was the devil's son, and I didn't get it. But I was just completely taken by this film. I don't want to talk it up too much because I don't know. It really has a bad rap, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, it does. Maybe, I don't know. I don't think it's deserved. I dig it. It looks like a lot of first timers in the chat though, which is super exciting. And a lot of people that have done the same thing we've done, probably napped throughout the day to get ready for the late night feature. So yeah, consider this your one big third segment episode of Driving a late night movie.
Nora said she's already drunk. I know she's going to hate this movie. I just know it.
I don't think I'm going to have hope. And I'm going to say that she's going to love it. It is It's got some, and I'm also hoping that Becca hated the first 10 minutes of it. I'm hoping that once she gets through the second watch, that she's gonna like it better. By the way, if you put on 3D glasses right now, Bill and I will appear in your living room on the left and right of you. So you got 3D glasses.
It could happen.
Yeah, it could happen. But yeah, I'm super excited for this. And TV movies that were sequels to existing films are something that fascinates me, like Splash 2. Or they would turn them into series. Like there's the Animal House series that ran for like 5 or 6 episodes. Probably the best example is MASH, which we always forget about. That MASH started as a really successful movie, and then the series lived way beyond the movie.
Yeah.
Some people watched the series and didn't even realize there was a movie.
That might be the only case of a movie being turned into a series and being better than the actual film.
Oh yeah. A lot of times you're like the TV movies or the series is very much of, well, we have this at home, so you kids don't need it, kind of thing. It's like that version of it. But I kind of like that. I always liked it for the same reason I like sequels. Is like, I want more of this world, and this movie definitely gives you more of this world. Now, is it the more of this world that you expected or wanted? That's up to you tonight as you watch it. Follow your own.
One thing that may actually help is there's a lot of kitsch and nostalgia right now about the 70s, and this is a very 70s film. It's so 70s, and of course that's one of the reasons why I love it. But not only the way people look, but the whole tone of it. Because, Rosemary's Baby, it didn't even really have... Were there really any actual supernatural things that happened? And I guess the impregnation was supernatural.
Yeah, but it's also like you could see it as like bad dreams, or do you know what I mean? It's like it was not fully supernatural.
It was a conspiracy film. Like that's what was scary about Rosemary's Baby, was that everybody was in on it except her and even her husband, like the people that she trusted the most.
Well, and also it's like it kind of proves what maybe she always assumed about her husband, that like his career success is perhaps more important than their child or their marriage or their life together. And isn't that really even more frightening than the devil having a baby?
That's the real issue.
Yeah.
You're never going to see a devil baby, but you're going to see a lot of the former. So it's sort of...
Oh, you mean Anton LaVey's really not in the movie?
Is he? I don't know.
I love that was like, he was always like, oh, I'm really not in it. He very much like trumped that, where he was like, some say that I was in this movie. Like, do you know what I mean? It's like, who are these some? It's you. You're the one that got this rumor out there all the time. He's not in it.
But getting back to look what's happened to Rosemary's Baby and the 70s aspect of it, it's a finding yourself film. Like the first one was a paranoid conspiracy. This one is all about like it's a very 70s theme, Easy Rider-ish. Although it's not a road picture.
Yeah,
it is episodic though. There's 3 different parts to it, which is kind of cool.
I like that about it, and it's funny because like whereas Rosemary's Baby is very much her story, you know what I mean, and her determining where she fits in the world. This is his story and where he fits in the world. Does he fit in the world?
Yeah.
Why was he created? What will come next? It's a lot of the questions we ask are, imagine the questions you asked yourself in puberty. Now imagine you were the son of the devil. Now those questions get a lot more complicated, don't they?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Ruth Gordon's in this film.
She sure is.
She's the only actor that actually carries over from the first film, although there are 4 Oscar-winning actors in tonight's feature, including Patty Duke. She's in it. She takes over the Mia Farrow role. Ray Milland takes over the Roman Castevet role, and God, who else? Well, Ruth Gordon. Who's the 4th one?
That's a great question. I'm not sure.
It can't be Tina Louise.
No, but word that it could be, right?
You know, I had a sheet prepared and I left it downstairs.
The
And
movie star. Well, Tina Louise is literally the movie star. So you know.
this was considered a breakout role for Tina Louise because she was just coming off of Gilligan's Island, well, relatively close to this film, and she was trying to shed her ginger image.
Uh,
And she did this, and she played a role in a women's prison film where she did some press about how she had like she butched herself up, and she went stayed with prisoners, and you know she familiarized herself with prison culture. For this, I wonder if she
I
got
like to
into the
use
Temple of
butched up for
Satan.
her. That's my favorite part.
What is?
Butched up.
Yeah. Well, because her image was very extremely feminine, and you know the movie star, which she
And
hated, I guess.
my biggest rule of these movies of '70s occult movies is don't trust anyone that was old Hollywood. So any Academy Award winners, anybody that was in movies before 1970, 1965, these are probably going to be the people that leave the cult, right?
Yeah,
Like
absolutely.
these are the people to watch out for. So this movie has, but you know what? The old Hollywood actors really got a lot of these movies. Like between this and The Devil's Reign, these are like the kind of like, hey, do you want to be a member of a cult? And that's a secret cult.
Yeah.
And the Sentinel too. The Sentinel's another great one to get him in too.
Well, you know, this was also Rosemary's Baby aside, because that was the late 60s. Like, this was the full tilt boogie beginnings of Satanic Panic. This was
Yeah,
1976.
yeah. I just there's a great doc that just came out. I'm getting ready to watch for a film fest called Satan Loves You. That's all about the remembrance books. Do you remember those where people had their memories brought back and they remembered that they were in cults? And
Yes.
it actually interviews a lot of the people that wrote the books. What's the one? Christina Remembers. Is that the one?
Broderick Crawford was the other actor in this film
Ah,
who was an Oscar winner.
and George Maharis, I just saw too. I mean, that's a pretty great cast.
Yeah, I just
I could totally see that. You could totally see the TV ad for this coming up next, and it's just like headshots and then Broderick Crawford and and just like Ruth Gordon, and it's like you just see all the heads like.
the TV guide ad was exactly like that. There, everybody's head was in a box. I'm
Yeah.
going to show it later, so we
Oh,
can look at it.
I'm sure that like when I thumbed through the TV guide and got a full page ad for a movie that night, and especially if it had a capsule review on the next page, I was like, well, I know what I'm doing Wednesday. I'm going to be watching that movie.
Vince Cornelius brought up Mike Warnke. Vince Cornelius, I saw Mike Warnke live.
Really?
Yeah, my mom took me to see Mike Warnke. She was like, "We're going to go listen to this guy. He's a Christian comedian." That's
Oh
how he
wow.
sold himself, was as a Christian comedian. And when you got there, you got this crazy unhinged sermon about his life and all the shit that he had done, and like how he had been in a satanic cult. And you know, it just sounded like a crazy person narrating fictitious things that happened in his life. And you know what? That's exactly what it was. He told these lies for years and years, and then finally, like, these guys from a Christian magazine went to interview him. They're like, hey, like, we want to talk to you and like we do and research your life. They started going back and talking to people he met in the book, and they were like, none of that was true, and they debunked the entire thing. And
As they said in that 2020 famous 2020 special, there's only two ways out of these cults. One's death and one's suicide.
um, so yeah, this kind of played into that whole satanic fad thing that was going beginning in
Yeah.
the 70s.
We had a special occult cop come to our church youth group and meet with us about like stuff to look out for. You
That
know?
sounds like a 90s VHS release, a cult cop.
Oh, dude. Well, yeah. Next, it's Scanner Cop 4, Occult Cop. But yeah, they came to, and my sixth grade teacher gave me. Remember those mimeograph sheets that were purple that they
Yes,
ran
a
through everything they
ditto.
spelled? Yeah, he gave me a ditto sheet to share with my friends of what bands to avoid. and it backfired. So I got the Black Sabbath. I was like, well, I like horror movies, and they're named for a horror movie. And oh man, this band sounds really interesting. And of course, the rest is history.
Yeah.
But this list had like, dude, it was that same list that still shows up today. Like bands like Styx were on it. Like if you played Paradise Theater backwards, oh, yeah, today. So we did, Bill, speaking of Satanic Panic, we did that flea market today, and we had a lot of my mother-in-law's movies to sell. And the lady said, do you have any Christian movies for sale, or do you have any faith-based movies? We got Jeepers Creepers 3 made by a pedophile. She was like, I don't want that. Said, okay, nobody does. So yeah, I had the Devil's Reign. The Devil's Reign was on the top of the stack, the old Anchor Bay one. I'm like, this one's really good. It has Ernest Borgnine in it. She didn't buy it. So there you go. But yeah, the Satanic Panic has not ended, Bill. It's just changed slightly, but the same story stuff you hear, and it's wild because but those same stories about bands, like why, like Hotel California was another one that that's about the Church of Satan, or it's about Charles Manson.
Oh my god!
And the one you always play, like the backwards masking of Another One Bites the Dust, is It's Cool to Smoke Marijuana.
Stairway to Heaven.
Stairway to Heaven.
There were so many more. ELO had one. And the guy that used to preach about this on TV, his name was Gary Greenwald. And he had this great show that came on after Ghost Host. I would start flipping around for stuff to watch really late. And that's how I found Gary Greenwald. And he would narrate these sermons. And he had these slideshows behind him that were really cool looking, like Alice Cooper Goes to Hell was behind him. And I was like, wow, this is awesome. And he would play backwards messages that he said had satanic messages in them. So
those same guys got super into toys in the early 80s too, like He-Man, because He-Man got the power. What power is it? You talking to Snake Mountain and it makes your voice a demon. I have a lot of those VHS of that. It's pretty amazing. And especially if you played D&D as a kid, you got it all the time. Like you were like, that's the next level. It's funny because at the beginning of the 70s, end of the hippie era, beginning of the 70s, the Church of Satan's super out there. They're on in every man's magazine. Anton LaVey's in it. They're in the Inquirer all the time. What are the most popular movies? The Exorcist, The Omen, these super occult-based movies. And by the early 80s, everybody's like, whoa, we gotta close these doors a little bit. You know what I mean? It's getting taken over. So it's so cool. As my wife just posted, in '96 she wanted to be in the craft. It's gonna happen. But this movie fits right in though. It's very mid '70s, pre-Satanic Panic, and it's got some cool. I love the idea of him wearing the mask behind his head. That visual is awesome.
Well, interestingly, that sort of ties into what we were just talking about for tonight's film, because there's a moment in this movie where Roman Castevet recognizes the satanic influence of rock and roll, which is really not rock and roll. It's like this jazz sort of space rock or something. And he's really, they must have told them look, just record something that sounds really weird. And that's what the rock music is in this movie. But he recognizes that he's this power is moving among them. And there's that scene I always use for my dancing compilations in the beginnings of these episodes of these young people gyrating on a dance floor. That's tonight's film. Look what's happened to Rosemary's Baby.
My mom used to read all the Lestat books when I was a kid, because those were big. The Anne Rice books, and there was all those, he was in a band and stuff. And whenever they finally made the movie, I didn't think Korn was what Lestat's band sounded like. That was never what was in my head. You know what I mean? It was always something more Alice Cooper, or or Arthur Brown or something really interesting, not Korn. But I guess maybe for the kids of that era, that was what they wanted when Queen of the Damned came out.
Tonight's film is divided into 3 portions, and the first portion of the film is when it takes place just 6 years, I guess. I think he's, or maybe 9 years. Then Adrian, her baby, slash, she calls him Andrew, but the cult calls him Adrian, and he's still a young boy. And then that's the part.
This is the kind of confusion that mothers do. So my mom called me Mark until I was like 12.
Oh my
because she
God.
wanted to name me after Mark Spitz. My dad said, "No, you're going to name me after my father." So my dad called me Sam. My mom called me Mark. I was like, "Who am I?" Like Adrian. I was Adrian.
All you had to do was put a mask on the back of your head and go out dancing like as groovy as possible, and you'll find yourself.
Yeah.
I was saying something, and you
Oh, you said so. The first chapter is about Adrian. And,
yes, thank you.
it's like about 9 years after. Sorry, I didn't interrupt.
And then the adult Adrian is in the final 2 segments, and it's really sort of not the way I ever thought a sequel to Rosemary's Baby would go. I'll give it that. It's very surprising.
Yeah. It is. Yeah, it really takes you down a path that you're maybe not ready to tread, a left-hand path, right? Yeah, there's 3 books: the Book of Rosemary, the Book of Adrian, and the Book of Andrew. And in the Book of Andrew, Donna Mills is in it. If you love Donna Mills as much as I do, she was in one of my favorite. She did her own eye exercise video called "The Eyes Habit," which is 45 minutes of Donna Mills showing you how to exercise your eyes and around your eyes so that you don't get wrinkles.
Donna Mills ends up being very important in this film.
Yes. Super important.
Even though
Pay
she's not in
attention
it very much.
No, she's super in it. Yeah, and Roger Crawford's a sheriff. Oh, you know the other person I forgot his name is David Huffman.
Yeah.
He was in Fist, the Stallone movie.
Well, he was also in Blood Beach.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
He was the lead in Blood Beach opposite Mariana Hill, and unfortunately, he suffered a terrible death in 1985.
From what?
He was murdered.
Oh.
He was, being a groovy guy, like playing his bagpipes inside of his van or something while he had like some time to kill. And he saw this kid trying to steal somebody's car stereo. And these people came out and chased this kid away. And David Huffman was in the van, so he took off after the kid and followed him. And the kid ran into a park. And David Huffman like parked the van and ran after him and got into like a hand-to-hand combat situation with him. And the kid had a screwdriver and stabbed him twice with a screwdriver, and he like bled out in like 30 seconds.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it was terrible. And he wasn't even involved. I mean, he was just a bystander, and somehow he got sucked into this confrontation, and unfortunately the guy took his life. He was just the kid was only 16, and he's been in prison ever since. And he's in 2011 he was denied parole for the next 15 years. So he's not even eligible for parole until like, a couple years from now. A sad, terrible situation.
The director of this movie, Sam Osteen, was the editor you said, or the cinematographer of the first movie?
He was the editor. I know I said he was a cinematographer, but I got that backwards.
He directed a lot of really good stuff. That he worked on a lot of other really great movies too. So, and he also was the editor of Amityville 2: The Possession. Go figure. Right? And he edited Cool Hand Luke. So I mean, he has some really good credentials here, at least from editing standpoint. So, but yeah, and at least it's somebody that was involved with the first film, so that's kind of cool.
Somebody asked what was floating over my TV, and I just figured out what they meant. I was sitting here thinking, like, what did that mean? No, it's a projection. I have one of those liquid projectors, and it makes groovy images.
Feels like the Fillmore East when you're in his room.
This is my little sanctuary. John McDevitt called it the sanctum.
Yeah,
it was so amazing. He came over to the house, and we were hanging out down in the kitchen, like talking with Mark, and like we were all there, and then we were like, okay, we got to go upstairs and get ready for the episode. And John was like, "Oh, I get to go to the sanctum."
Yeah.
I was like, "Huh?"
There aren't many guests that get to go in it. It's only been like 2, I think, right? Sean and John are the only 2.
They're the only one. You've been here.
Yeah, I have been there.
You've been in my sanctum.
Yes.
Becca's been in my sanctum.
Becca's been in the sanctum, yes.
Come on in. There's lots of room.
Yeah.
So
Vivian has been in the sanctum.
she's right here.
Yeah, she's right there.
I'm not going to get her up though because she was being a bad girl and barking.
No.
So I'm going to dig up some ads for us to look at.
That's awesome.
So why don't you vamp for a little bit about look what's
Yeah,
happened to
you know what I
Rosemary's
was
Baby.
thinking as I was getting ready for this movie. This time next week, a good chunk of us will actually be at a drive-in and watching a movie. So that's super exciting to think about. I thought about that tonight. I'm like, that's going to be great. I had been excited before, but now my excitement got like, you know how like when you're a kid at Christmas and you're like, maybe not. I'm excited, you know, and then you get your advent calendar and you're like, holy shit, like that fucking chocolate behind every door. We're so many days away. Like I'm like advent calendar excited for Christmas. So yeah. Every day I open up and get another door and inside each door is a different exploitation movie. So yeah. Bill, speaking of before you get the ads, tomorrow is all regional movies. And I watched 2 that I think you're gonna like.
Yeah.
Behind Locked Doors. Which
oh my God.
Seen. Holy shit, that movie's crazy.
It's weird, isn't it?
Yeah, I love it. And So Sad About Gloria, which is by the same director as Encounters with the Unknown. Thomerson guy. Same guy did Designing Women and got Clinton into office. Crazy how the world works. But yeah, pretty good. I dug that too. And Skinned Alive, which has the grandma from Terror House as Crawdaddy.
Mary Jackson?
Yeah. Yeah, she's in it. So pretty rad. And so tomorrow's regional day on the site. So there'll be a lot of cool stuff.
I'm there for it, baby. I love it.
I had a fancy dinner out with my one of our CEOs this week, and they had absinthe on the cocktail menu, and I had one, and I had to explain what absinthe is to them. And I'm like, well, it's this thing that AC Nicholas brings to the drive-in.
Yeah, you should have some. Wow.
You should have some and see the Green Fairy. They're like, isn't that illegal? And I'm like, well, not the American.
Isn't Behind Locked Doors, a.k.a. the Toy Box, is that it?
No, but it is by the producer and unlisted writer is the same guy that wrote Toys Are Not for Children. So
but what's the AKA for the Toy Box then? There was.
I don't know. That does have a Behind Locked Doors does have another title too.
I have to look it up right now.
Yeah, but man, that movie's wild. It really feels like one big circle, and yeah. How many movies do we see that has an entire basement of women posed out, ready to dance? It has a Maniac ending too, which is really good.
Yeah, I guess that's right. I never even thought about that.
Yeah, and it's like, what's that? Like, also it has the guy from Scream of the Mutilated as their butler in it too. So it's got like it's yeah. I was just gonna say what Chris wrote. It's so scummy.
Okay.
It's like
so Behind Locked Doors. It actually the original title was Anybody Anyway. That's what I was thinking of because I only recently discovered that, and there was also an X-rated version that had hardcore inserts in it that was called Then Came Ecstasy.
I can see that because a lot of the people in it are one and done New York folks. Like they never did another movie outside of the dude from Scream of the Mutilated, John Inez. Is that his name? Who's the Native American from Scream of the Mutilated?
Hey, look.
Who's that guy? Wait, let me do the same pose.
It's the other you.
That's
because I was going to do the ads first, but I'm thirsty. So why don't we do the DIA cocktail?
Let's do it.
I'm looking for my cocktail overlay. I'm always like a step behind myself.
This one's a complicated. This is a fancy Cheesecake Factory cocktail.
All right, let's get into it.
Who can take a rainbow, smash it in a can? I don't know the words, but these are the words that the Candyman can. Anyway, this drink tonight, as we get ready to watch the hidden secret, a cult sequel to Rosemary's Baby, is a candy-infused drink named for Ruth Gordon's character. And
we got chocolate.
A dessert she made in the first movie, the chocolate mouse. This is Minnie's chocolate mouse martini. And oh my gosh, there's a lot going on this drink. So
it has a chalky undertaste.
Yeah, there's a lot of chocolate in it.
No, that's what.
Oh, she says
that.
Oh man,
because that's what they're drugging her with.
Oh, this drink does not have tannis root in it. In case you have a tannis root allergy, you'll be fine. This is a new glass. Look at this. This is Walmart.
You won't get pregnant by the devil if you drink this.
You might get pregnant by the devil. All right, so first step, we're gonna dip this.
Add some syrup.
We're gonna do some syrup around the edging, so you get a little. I'm not gonna say chocolate rim because there'll be all sorts of stuff. And oops, I already did it. All right, so let's do a little chocolate rim on that. Now let's put the drink together. This one's got a lot of ingredients. So this is gonna start. Let's go through the ingredients first. Bailey's Irish cream, the original Irish cream. In case you want to battle it out, we got some Kahlua. I want to take you to Montego, baby. Let's go to Kokomo. Nicolai vodka. We got Joaquin's or Joaquin's cream de cacao, and then we got.
Show them your shavings.
Yeah, I made shavings. There's no blood in there, but close.
Chocolate shavings.
Chocolate shavings. We got milk. We got chocolate syrup, which we've already used on one thing. The second part of the chocolate chocolate syrup is we're just gonna drizzle some in your glass here, so you get a nice kind of.
I think that's good.
Yeah. All right. So let's put this together into our shaker filled with ice. We're gonna do 1.5 ounces of the Bailey's Irish cream, which has been chilling for a while. So has the Kahlua. And this is actual Kahlua. This is no more of the stuff my mom made because I think that
sponsored by Panico.
The one I used before was like seriously gave me like absinthe like feelings. I think it did like
you saw fairies and magical beings.
Yeah, I saw something. We're gonna do 1 ounce of Nicolai. Nicolai's almost out of the war. Look at this. You can vote. When will the Nicolai vodka be done? It's real close. It's just a little bit. We got cream de cacao made by Joaquin's. Joaquin's is from Pennsylvania. Of all brands, like, would you think, I'm Joaquin from Pennsylvania.
Joaquin.
How's that Jean, if he was from Philly? Or let's get down there and have some of that Jackin. That's what they would call it. Anyway.
Then your milk.
2
ounces of milk.
2 ounces of milk, and that's all in this. Let's gonna do that in the shaker. We're gonna shake that up, and unlike many drinks, we're not gonna keep the ice. We're gonna shake it up, pour it into here, and then top it with the shavings. Okay? So 20 seconds on the clock. You might want to fast forward, but maybe I'll find stuff to do for 20 seconds. It'll make it once it starts making your hands cold. That's when you know the drink's gonna be cold. That's some bartender skills for you right there. Look at that.
Oh, this is some Cheesecake Factory shit up in here.
It is. This menu's got like 30 pages on it. Just like the Cheesecake Factory. Let's put that in there. A gradual pour. This is going to be like a dessert. Look at the...
So pretty. You can hold it up in a minute.
Yeah. All right.
Sprinkle your shavings.
Sprinkling your shavings is... They taught you in high school. That means... Oh, look at this. I feel it.
I told you. This is
This is a $17 drink. These drinks used to be dollar drinks. These are $17 drinks now.
And how does it taste?
I don't know. Well, let's see. Oh, Pazuzu, you've done yourself. Good this time. I would say you've outdone yourself, but I don't.
You are yourself.
You are yourself, Pazuzu. How does Pazuzu feel about Rosemary's Baby? Let's take one more sip. That's nice. Well, strong. That vodka comes up on the back end. You're like, am I ready for this burn? You better be, because you're going to hell. Anyway, here's the drink. See you guys in a little bit.
All right, Pazuzu. I'm sorry, I didn't make that drink. In fact, I totally forgot to look up the ingredients in it. I would have had a nervous breakdown if I'd seen that like a couple hours ago.
Yeah, it's a very complicated drink, but quite lovely.
I sure do want one now. I'm kicking myself, I have to admit, especially the shavings. Dude,
The shavings were the most complicated part. A Hershey bar and a vegetable peeler, and a lot of blood. A lot of blood went in that drink.
Lots of folks with us tonight. Thank you so much for joining us on the DIA late movie with Look What's Happened to Rosemary's Baby. I'm really excited about watching this.
Yeah. Next week, if you do come to the drive-in, I got 2 of the 4 drinks planned, and they are not sophisticated at all next week. One's got Hawaiian Punch in it. So if you like Hawaiian Punch and grain alcohol, holy shit, show up. That'll be one for you.
Nora, you're already drunk, so we understand that you didn't make this.
Yeah.
Not that we're envious of the fact that you're already drunk. We're getting caught up to you right now. So let's look at some ads, shall we?
Shall we?
For our only feature tonight. Look What's Happened to Rosemary's Baby.
What a baby.
If this is not a beautiful thing, I don't know what is. I mean, when I think of beautiful things, this is one of the top beautiful things that comes to mind. This full-page ad from TV Guide circa October 1976, which is when this was broadcast. I think it was actually October 30th and not the 31st. But close enough. And besides, this was a Friday night movie, so that must have meant Halloween was on a Saturday. Those are special years.
Oh.
Pauline Comedy Hour is absolutely fucking genius. It's an absolute must for me every year at Halloween. How about you?
Oh, 100%.
Well, there's your big heads lineup in the ad for Look What's Happened to Rosemary's Baby, too.
Yeah.
So,
Ryder Crawford, top billed.
Mm-hmm.
That was in his rider. Donna Mills at the end, though. I would have Donna Mills. She hadn't yet been a star yet. She was like the young ingenue.
Yeah, she was. What soap was she on?
Knots Landing.
Okay, so it was prior to Knots Landing. She was a much bigger star after Knots Landing.
Hey, oh, by the way, warning to anyone watching the movie tonight: due to mature subject matter, parental discretion is advised. I have to do the Goulardi voice. I'm sure Goulardi did the voiceover for this because it was an ABC. Up next on Love Boat.
So yeah, there was a lot of write-up in the paper about this because it was actually a sequel to a theatrical film that was being made for TV. Probably not a great sign when something like that happens, like the sequel to the Stepford Wives being a TV movie. But it was known as Look.
Rosemary's Baby 2 is like right in your face. Like, fuck it, that's what it's called.
That's what it was originally called. It was going to be called Rosemary's Baby 2, and then at the last minute, Paramount decided to change the title to Look What's Happened to Rosemary's Baby.
Baby Harder.
Yeah, so in some regions, it was known as Rosemary's Baby 2. Stephen McHattie is the actor who plays Adrian. And you know, if you look on YouTube, there's actually the audio of a Q&A that Stephen McHattie did during or before and after an actual 16 millimeter screening of Look What's Happened to Rosemary's Baby, which I think was the first time anybody had screened it in a theater. It was from a couple of years ago. And, you know, the whole audience is sort of like, they take it seriously. You can tell that there are people there that are fans of the film, but Stephen McHattie just has nothing good to say about this movie. And it's just sort of like it's assumed that this is a shitty movie and that he's almost embarrassed as having been in it. But I don't think it's a shitty movie at all, really.
No. Stand behind what you've done.
Patty Duke, of course, has one of the most terrifying scenes in any film that happens in Look What's Happened to Rosemary's Baby. You know the one I mean.
Oh yeah, this movie has some traumatic moments in it. It's not for its reputation. It is a frightening. There are frightening moments in this movie.
It's made for TV scary, which could
Yeah,
be very scary. Like Salem's Lot is still
oh.
scary to me, and that was.
Sam's Lot super scary. Gargoyles is still super scary.
Mhm. This, I would say, is just sort of like medium level scary,
Yeah,
except for this moment in the film,
yeah.
which was, also in it. It was in and of itself very low key, but seeing
It's one of those. I think anyone shooting it would predict the kinder trauma that it contains,
Paul,
which
this
is
was
the best.
1976, by the way. Sorry,
Mhm.
Sam, go ahead.
The bicentennial.
Yeah. This was a full page ad in the newspaper, or just a full page in a newspaper,
Whoa.
like a weekly. I forget where this is from. I can't see the names of the files when I have them up. Sorry.
Oh, the devil walks the world is a great tagline for this movie. Like that makes me want to watch this movie real bad.
Yeah, maybe that's not the best way to describe this film, but
No, but it's a great tag, and also that world premiere being bolded, like they went all in on this. Like, hey, this is an important movie. We think that it's an important movie.
yeah,
This one is just like what? Half human, half demon child grows up, I guess. Let's rip off the Fantastic Four logo for our channel.
we are still live, Jeff Drake. Thanks for joining us. Yeah, I was excited to find these particular ads because I didn't know they existed. I'd never seen
Yeah,
these ad designs. I'll flick back to the other one too.
yeah,
This was the first time I ever found it because there were a few places where it was broadcast on October 1st, which really blew my mind because almost
yeah.
everywhere got this on, October 30th, 1970.
It's one. It's funny. I always think maybe these ads ran. And you remember when you got like the not TV guide that was in with the Sunday newspaper? And
Yes.
my dad always be like, "That's fine. We don't need to buy TV guide." And I'd be like, "No, we need TV guide."
Oh, I'm so with you on that. I'm so glad that there were other people that were snobs about their TV guides. It
Yeah.
had to be TV guide.
For a while, my dad's like, "We already get the paper and we already have that. It's fine." And I was like, "There are no articles. There's no Judith Crist. There. Do you know what I mean? Like, I need the whole TV guide experience."
Absolutely. And I didn't like the way that the generic TV newspaper ads, they never designated which films were horror films.
Yeah.
And I relied on
And like
that.
they didn't really go in depth of like what was on late. Like they like after midnight, they're like, yeah, there's stuff on. Like that's when I need TV Guide to tell me what's on.
Okay, I stand corrected. It was October 29th, 1976 was when most people,
Oh
but it
wow.
did show on October 1st in a couple places. So anyway, that's the ads for Look What's Happened to Rosemary's Baby.
That's when TV Guide lost me at the end, is when they would just do the weekly grid and say, here's what's on, and like not get into what was on late night on every channel. You know what I mean? Like I don't know. I needed more from TV Guide. I liked when TV Guide went to the big format though, the big pages. You know?
Thriller was what you looked for when you were looking for movies.
Yeah.
TV Guide. It was always Thriller.
Sean Midas has a question for me. He said, I wanted to ask if you saw that Conquest lead off this year's Splatterfest. Yeah, I did. I woke back up to tell her. Like she was dead asleep, and I said, hey, Manhattan Baby and Conquest are playing in a theater, and we're going to go. And she said, go to sleep. And I said, well, so.
It's only fair for you to tell her that you're going to go.
Yeah. Do you remember when they had the VHS Plus codes in TV Guide where you just punched in that code and it automatically recorded stuff for you?
No.
I didn't trust VHS Plus. I'll set my own timer to record things. Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
15 minutes before and 15 minutes after because I'm not missing anything.
Why wouldn't you set it yourself? Were there really people
Yeah.
that didn't know how to do it?
Yeah, there was an actual remote called VHS Plus, and there were like a 5-digit or 6-digit code for each movie. It was fancy back then. I was the only one that was allowed to use the
Isn't it
remotes,
like
and that, or I was the remote for our house because no one wanted to rewind and fast forward or set the timer or anything. I had to figure that out.
Yeah, I did that too.
Yeah, tapes. I still say that now. Like even if we had like when I download a movie, I'm like, hey, I taped this movie. Let's watch it. Even though I download it. Yeah, I'm the IT person for everybody. The IT person for several families now. But yeah, I'm really like now. I know now that we can watch anything anytime. That's why I built out my movie schedule for the site. It's my TV guide. Like, here's what I'm watching this week. You know?
You know, I posted some stuff on my Facebook today. One of them was a picture, an ad of a wall of 8 tracks.
Oh,
It was an ad that ran in a Maine. I've been doing a series on Groovy Doom from Bangor, Maine, and there was an ad in there of this from a record store, and it was all 8 tracks. And I was like, "This is the most beautiful thing I've seen in a while." And I just coincidentally was following this post on the Vinegar Syndrome Facebook group, and it was basically this. It was somebody wrote in, made a post and said, you know, I'd really like it if they would include the scratched up print with their, you know, fixed up version.
I love that. Yeah,
Okay, so you do?
I 100% do. Because like the first time I saw City of the Living Dead, I saw a VHS beat to hell like 8th generation copy of it, and I like it more. Like
Yeah.
the scenes at the end in the graveyard are awesome, and when you see a really cleaned up one, you're like, it's still great. I still love it, but I can see the effects better, and it's not as good. Like I watched The Beyond last night, and I love it, but if I had a VHS copy of The Beyond, I probably or a scratch one, I probably would like it more.
Well, that was this guy's point, was that we would like to see that because, you know, they that would probably be pretty easy for them to just don't
Yeah,
do anything to the print and make that an Easter egg
yeah.
or a bonus. I don't know how much space that would take up on a disc. But
Old
well, of
Ninja's
course, there
doing
was
that.
somebody that posted on the thread and was like, "Well, why would you want to do that?" When I don't understand the fetishization, which I didn't even really. I was like, "Is that really a word?" I guess it is. And
Yeah,
who uses that word? The fetishization of the scratches and the banged up print and everything. I'm like, well, fuck you, because you know that's the way
yeah,
most of us saw these movies. Oh, he said that it was never the filmmaker's intention for it wasn't the filmmaker's intention for you to see it banged up and scratched. I'm like, yeah, it was like you know, I'm not saying we
yeah.
shouldn't clean up these prints. That's not what I would want. I do want them to be preserved. I love to see a fixed up version. It's just nobody can. It's kind of cynical if you can't understand why people would want to see it the other way, because that's
Well, isn't it cool seeing a version of a movie that has been seen by thousands of people and that has traveled the country,
yeah.
right? And it has like this warmth and like this energy that numerous audiences have enjoyed it. Like, not to get metaphysical on it, but like it's like there's this psychic energy within it versus like, oh, this is totally clean and perfect. And it's like our not movies aren't really perfect.
It's sterilized, you know, and when
Yeah,
it's all cleaned up and everything. Yeah, it's wonderful. I want to see my favorite films fixed up like that. But
yeah.
that's not how I fell in love with them. Whatever magic they have doesn't have anything to do with the print being all cleaned up. So
Well, it's like
why?
Manos uncleaned up works better for me because
Hmm.
you can't see it. It exists in this like blackness, and like when they did the cleaned up version, you can see the lights in the city in the background, and I don't want to think that there's anything else around that house, right? Like I just wanted it to just be this tiny world that is like self-contained. I don't want any more, and like that kind of screws it up for me. So, not that I don't still love it, but you know,
Oh, I'd love to see that Aliens scratchy
yeah.
35 millimeter print. Movies like Aliens, they're never gonna it'd be really hard to see a version like that because they're owned by these huge entities that just keep upgrading them, like UHD. Like, when is it gonna end? Is there gonna
There are a couple companies that are putting out roughed up versions of stuff like Gold Ninja, which puts out like they're not as close to bootleg, but they've been putting out some scrap. Like they have a copy of version of White Zombie coming out that is literally a 35 millimeter print that's being taken right from the print, and that's it, no cleanup, which is kind of cool. The other thing I really like is that a lot of the new Arrow stuff has the Super 8 versions of the movies included too. Which, if a Super 8 exists of a movie, I think that's awesome to include as an
Yes.
extra.
Oh, I wish
That's a
that was
good.
all the time.
Yeah, I'm a champion of that because I love seeing those digest versions of the film and how they're edited and put together. So yeah, I don't know. I love seeing. I get excited when movies get cleaned up, but I also get excited just to see movies. Like it's funny because there's some people that were like that'll be like, oh, I don't, this Prince back like Martin's on Tubi right now. Is it as good as the one that Second Sight put out? In no way, no. It's real beat up and crappy looking, but it's still Martin.
Yeah, you don't need that to love Martin. You're gonna
Yeah,
love it whether it's a crappy VHS transfer or the fixed up
yeah.
version.
Yeah, you can enjoy the movie, and then if you really love it, then start getting different versions of it and start enjoying. You know what I mean? Find the best version of it for you,
It's another
or
reason to
or
watch
the
it
one.
again. Just
Yeah, it's different than like I saw Vince say back in my day. You're just happy to find a print of a movie or a copy of a movie sometimes, or whatever VHS version your rental store had of a movie. You just kept renting it over and over again.
yeah, that was your experience with it, so that's what makes it special.
Well, it's funny because Becca has some movies had them taped off TV when she was a kid, and she knows where the breaks are at in the movie based on where the commercials are. Like as a kid, I always knew watching Wizard of Oz, like when the Cowardly Lion jumps out the window in that one scene, like okay, it's time to take a break because they're going to the commercial. You like get used to watching movies within these rhythms, and it becomes your movie. You know what I mean?
God, 70 millimeter. Have you ever seen anything 70 millimeter?
No, I haven't. I know that they did that road show of the Hateful Eight in 70 millimeter, but it didn't come anywhere nearby.
I don't either, and I see ads all the time for Alien 70 millimeter. I think, oh God,
Wow.
like to just
So I posted. Speaking of Goblin, did you see that thing I posted this week about the med beds? And I found out why they didn't like Dawn of the Dead, like why it's in their list, because it said worst movie credits ever. That the music is by Dario Argento and the Goblins. That's my favorite part. I honestly, when that happens in Dawn of the Dead and that title card comes up, I get like super amped up. Like it should be in all caps.
I
Like it's
remember actually reading that in the book. So I used to go in Walden Books in
yeah.
Monroeville Mall, ironically, and I would stand there and read it. And I was reading about Dawn of the Dead, that quote from the Medveds about Dario Argento and the Goblins. I was like, who the fuck cares?
That's great that that's the name of the band. Like that's on. Like why is that a bad thing? Also, like they just mentioned Night of the Living Dead in their is like there's a version you can download it off the Internet Archive and look at the PDF of it. And all they do is just mention Night of the Living Dead. They don't say what's negative about it. It's just in their list of movies that critics haven't liked. And I'm like, I think at some point critics made the jump to liking it. Like, you know,
Yeah,
I definitely know
the
that. You know
Village
what I mean? Like,
Voice I
yeah.
think were the first ones that wrote a serious evaluation of Night of the Living Dead.
So but there's nothing negative, and it's like how, man, I'm trying not to be too precious, but how dare you put Night of the Living Dead and Dawn of the Dead in the same list as like Dondi and the Tycoon? You know what I mean? Like movies that aren't good, and like, fuck the Medveds forever. Like I hate those guys, um, but and I hate that like that's how I got into some of these movies because like I was always like, oh, Robot Monster is a really stupid movie because the Medveds made fun of it. And then when I got older, I'm like, no, like yeah, Robot Monster is ridiculous and it's cheap and the costume's dumb, but it's also got really scary parts to it, and it's an interesting movie. Iga's an interesting movie too. They're both shot in the same area in the same cave, in fact. But I hate
Ega.
that.
Oh, I love that movie. That's a
I
furniture
hate that
movie.
like movies like that. People are like, I can't wait to watch this and laugh at it. Really? Is that what you're doing? Like,
They
it
love
seems.
it. You know they
Yeah,
love it. Why would you want to
I love
watch it?
Ega. I think Ega's hilarious because it's like I love Arch Hall
Yes,
Jr.
I could
Yeah,
watch Arch Hall all day.
dude, I love that his dad in that movie yells, the ADR doesn't work, really. And he yells, look out for snakes, and his mouth doesn't move. I get happy every time that happens.
Every movie that was in Leonard Maltin's film guide that said bomb was always going to be good. You knew that was what you had to like.
Oh,
Stop the World. I Want to Get Off with Sammy Davis
yeah.
Jr. It was like it got this terrible blurb in Leonard Maltin's, and I saw it on TV and watched it, and it was amazing.
I think that it's in my DNA to love movies like this because my dad had the soundtrack to Stop the World, I Want to Get Off. And he also had the soundtrack to The Bounty, which was like a horribly reviewed movie, right? But it came in a box set with like 3 vinyls and a whole book about The Bounty and how they filmed it in Tahiti and how Marlon Brando got character. And I thought to myself as a kid, like, in the 70s, looking through these records, I'm like, I'm never going to get a chance to see this, you know?
So, anything you want to say about tonight's feature? Look What's Happened to Rosemary's Baby before we get to it.
I'm excited to watch it with you. I'm excited for the group to watch it. I'm excited to talk about it afterwards. I hope that Becca likes it. I don't think she's going to stay awake. That flea market was pretty rough. I think she's already covered up and three animals are laying on her. So chances of her staying awake are the chances of me not liking a satanic movie with Ray Milland in it. So,
Yeah, she's toast. She's gonna fall asleep.
Good night. She just yelled when she
Yeah.
says good night. That's it.
Yeah.
That's the stamp of sleep approval. Anything you want to say, Bill? I know you're very excited about this.
I am. There are certain images that are just burned into my brain from my first viewing of this movie, including the one of Stephen McHattie in the mime makeup dancing in front of all those people. That was really iconic for me because I just didn't understand, I had no context for any of it.
Yeah.
It was really creepy to me, especially when he turns around. No, not only does he have a mask on the back of his head, but when he closes his eyes, there are eyeballs there. It's like stuff painted on his eyelids. So
Yeah.
it was kind of like, David Bowie-esque or, somebody's conception anyway of shock rock or Alice Cooper or something. So
It's like whenever what's his name when Chips had that episode with what's the name of the singer? I know he sings "Devil Take Me" in it, but there's the one episode of Chips with Donnie Most is a shock rock singer, and he looks just like Gene Simmons, and it's like or like when Punk there's a Quincy episode with Punk's in it. I'm super yeah. I'm super
want to see a show. I want to see a show.
I'm obsessed whenever like straight like network TV says, "Here's what heavy metal is," and it's really
it's always awesome.
It's probably more metal by the fact that it's not metal, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Like it transcends. It's like, yeah, this is super shitty and dumb, but I also love it. Right? I fall in love with it, and like that's
You wish it was like that.
Yeah. Like I wish shock rock was like this, where people were like offering their lives to these musicians instead of, it's kind of boring, right? Like there's bands like Sleep Token now. They're supposed to be super evil and stuff. They're boring as fuck. Like more of these bands, more Howard Brown and Alice Cooper, right? Anyway, super excited for this movie. That's my final word.
I posted the link to the movie. It's on YouTube and it's on Groovy Doom. It's the last post before the one that you're watching right now, so you can go find it there, or just go to YouTube and enter "Look What's Happened to Rosemary's Baby." Although there are 2 versions, don't watch the shitty one. There's a nicer one that's on there. That's the one I linked to, and it's probably
David said just make sure not to watch it. That's his review.
Yeah, I guess David doesn't like it.
That's okay. We can't agree about everything.
Well, he stopped in ROS, so maybe he meant there. Maybe there's a movie called "Look What Happened to Roz." Is it Roz Russell?
Yeah, it's just don't look what happened to Roz Russell.
Well, there was that party that Joan gave her at the Rainbow Room, and afterwards, Joan never went out in public again. So Roz probably felt the same way. That's what happened to her, sadly.
Huh.
She got old like we all do.
I think about that a lot. It's like, it's hard for, in Hollywood. Joan was still playing her daughter on a soap opera.
On a secret storm.
I love that so much. That's such a and she was like, "Of course I would do that. I'm just trying to help you."
I held your role for you, darling. They would have replaced you.
Yeah, nothing wrong with doing that at all. Like, no.
That has my favorite lines in that movie where she goes, "Bill, could you call?" And then he has to he's like, "You want me to call Cindy for you?" Yes. She wants to. She's like reading off of the cue cards, and then the producer comes over, and she's trying. She can tell she's drunk, and she just pours like a little liquor into a cup, and Joan grabs it back and pours even more in.
Oh, it's so good.
Anyway, I digress. Let's get to the movie. Look what's happened to Rosemary's Baby. Go get the link. It's on YouTube, and come back afterwards. We'll have lots more to say. Who knows what it might even be about. Look what's happened to Rosemary's Baby.